Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio. You're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio. You're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. Money Radio is that program that brings you the latest development in Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today we are going to look at a very important sector and, of course, a very important development in the Nigerian business sector. It will interest you to know that there seems to be a confusion in the government programs and policies surrounding issues of the 5% tax that was originally planned to be imposed by the Nigerian government, last month. Now, on Monday, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Pantami, actually announced on behalf of the federal government the suspension of the proposed 5% tax on telecom services, which was earlier announced by the Federal Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning in conjunction with the Nigerian Customs. Therefore, the excise duty of 5% that was originally planned by the Nigerian government on telecom services has therefore been suspended. That is according to the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy. However, yesterday, there was a twist to this very development when the Director General of the Budget Office in the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Dr. Ben Akabweze, announced that such suspension, the ministry is not aware of it, and his office is also not aware of it, because it is a matter of law that the excise duty has already been decided and implementation will have to stand. Therefore, the announcement by the Honorable Minister Pantami, there seems to be some contradiction here, following the pronouncement by Ben Akabweze. And so we're facing some critical time here. We're also facing confusion as to how the government policies are formed and how the government policies are implemented in the same government. I have in the studio my regular guest with whom I'm going to do justice to this important topic. Let us see how we're going to interrogate some of these things and, of course, see how we're going to wriggle out of this confusion. I welcome to the program, Haniel Jafar. Haniel, you're welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks again. You're looking so angelic today.
It's good to be angelic.
Thank you.
It's good.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you can see the confusion arising from the pronouncements being made by government, individuals from officials of government. The Minister Pantami on Monday actually told the pressmen that the proposed 5% tax on telecom services has been suspended, and of course, a committee had been, established, inaugurated. That he also chairs that committee to review that policy. But then yesterday, there was another twist to this very development when Ben Akabweze, the Director General of Budget Office in the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, that they are not aware of such policy of government. It has not been communicated to them. And as far as they are concerned, the implementation of the excise duty of 5% stands, because it is a matter of law that was passed by the National Assembly, the Finance Act passed by the National Assembly. So we're here are we at a crossroads or something? Because according to the government, they are driving for revenue, which is of course in the expenditure medium-term expenditure framework, that they are trying to boost in order not to have deficit budget. So if you deny the government taxes on telecom services, for instance, where else can they get the funding for the budget? First of all, clear the issue of the contradiction in the.
Well, who am I to clear such issues when those are reacting to it. Reacting to it will be a better language.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think the challenge that has befallen this issue is what I've always been saying in this program: interagency collaboration. Yes. That was completely absent, because if you would review the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy's response to that when he was making that cancellation. He said, according to the Constitution, I've forgotten the section of which he quoted, he made mention of the fact that he, as a minister in charge of that industry or that sector, was supposed to be carried along while that implementation should have been, while they were deciding on that implementation. So it was marvel to be hearing that an implementation happening in the sector that is in his jurisdiction without him being aware of it. You get? So on the other end, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning is saying, well, it is a constitutional thing, so I don't need to, it's already in the Constitution, so we implement based on what is in the Constitution, or it is in the Finance Act. So now, this is where the inter-collaboration comes to play, because largely if I am to react to that, the Constitution clearly gives power over every other act. Yes. So if we're to go in line with what we know, I think the Constitution should be adhered to. So even though it is in the Finance Act, nothing stops the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning to have intimated the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy of that, to get his own opinion and see how best they can even drive the implementation. Because how would you want to drive the implementation of such without the collaboration of the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy? It's practically almost impossible, because you will need his effort, you will need his foot soldiers, you will need everything that are largely under him for them to be able to. Because if the Minister of Finance wants to pass the implementation, they can go directly to NCC or go directly to the telecoms. They have to pass through the Minister of Communication, who now directs the NCC to carry out whatsoever implementation they want to carry out. So it's just an interagency collaboration, or probably they're trying to do someone's power is more than the other person's power. But
all right, the issue is that there are in fact, even in the responses to the issue of that policy and implementation, you could see the Minister of Communication, Ali Pantami, saying that Nigerians have already been overburdened with taxes.
True.
In fact, in that sector alone, the telecom sector, they already have 41 taxes imposed on services. Then if you have this excise duty on the masses, in the industry, that it has a tendency to actually jeopardize the industry and drive away investors. Now, that is a very valid argument, if you might call it populist in nature, because it aligns with the thinking of the people that, in fact, the burden is so much on them that, in fact, I was at a stakeholders forum when that policy was being made public, that people should not participate in it. The telecom sector industry players were vehemently against the policy. That tells you that, look, this is what you are going to get if that policy is implemented. But then the government, on the other hand, from the Ministry of Finance and National Nigerian Customs, also seem to have another argument that is valid, that the 5% excise duty on telecom services is not so much compared to other African countries that actually charge over 10%. And you know, they say that the tax to GDP ratio in Nigeria is still below 10%. So if we are charging only 10% as a means of raising revenue that is already backed by the law, what exactly is really wrong with that?
Well, there is nothing wrong with that. Only that the masses who would be the payer of this excess duty in question are really largely not benefiting from the taxes they've been collecting previously. Yet, if I know what my tax is being used for, if there's been accountability of what my tax is being, what the tax I pay is being used for, and you're telling me that, okay, I want to increase your tax, and if I increase your tax, this is what I'm going to use it for, I would, it's worth considering. But now, the one I paid previously, I've not seen the use. Probably it's been used to settle debts that I did not know what happened to the money.
What about infrastructure that the government is providing?
What infrastructure are we talking about? These are things that the government is not a virtual thing. It's something that you can physically see, and yeah, there are infrastructures that are available, but to the comparing it to the amount of tax that has been collected, we are largely driven by our implementation are largely resource driven. They are not tax driven. Most of the infrastructure that we get that has been developed by the government, they are largely from the natural resources that we have and not from the tax. But notwithstanding, even the little tax that has been collected, the company income tax, the education trust fund tax, that now we have education trust fund tax, and we have students on strike, the company income tax, what the pay as you earn, the excise duty, the sales duty, the VAT, what are the things that this tax has been used to do? Yet it's just that there's a huge mistrust between the government and the people. That's why there is this clamor of, we don't want you to increase any tax. Because it was not now. I always advocate for a strategic implementation. It's not as though that it's a bad idea to have this kind of tax, but the first thing you need to look at is the timing of the implementation. You also need to look at how you can convince the people that this tax will be used judiciously. You also need to look at so many other things that tends to ensure that you win the people's trust. Because truly, if you don't win the people's trust, they will always advocate against such taxes, knowing fully well that at the end of the day, the people who are supposed to be the beneficiary of these taxes are not the beneficiaries. It ends up in the pockets of those that probably don't pay their taxes.
Okay, one other thing that we need to do is to try to, like we said, reconcile these issues of policy formulations and for policy implementations. There seemed to be no synergy before this policy was announced, and then almost being driven down the throat of Nigerians, especially now that it's been really terrible. It's been really difficult for Nigerians to be able to meet their daily needs. And of course, the telecom sector and the services they render has become essential services to the people. So that was the argument of the Minister of Pantami, that we do not need to add more to the hardship in the land. But at the same time, we need to also look at what the budget, for instance, for 2023 expenditure, the medium-term expenditure framework that has already captured this excise duty in the budget. What does it now entail? Do we now have to go back and
the budget has not been stamped to a rock. Yet it can be redesigned. It's a projection. How about you project getting 5%, and at the end of the day, you end up getting 10% from certain sector, or getting less than that percent? What would happen? Yet it may have been projected that would be the source of the tax, but beyond that, we should ensure that these things are largely implemented with the cooperation of the people. We think Nigerians are intellectuals. there are other ways we can drive this revenue generation if we truly want to drive this revenue generation. There are countries that don't have these natural resources. They don't collect so much tax as we do. But yes, they have these things. What do? What's the level of investment as a country do we have? Do we invest as a country? What's the level of investment? What are the things that we put in place to ensure that, okay, this does not repeat itself again? Or we take away the burden from the people and we put the burden on the investment. Because we are just the easiest. We are always going, the government is always going for the things that tends to be the easiest way out. And the easiest way out is to ensure that you let the people, you are paying for it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or do you go to ICC because of the government telling you, no, you can't go there. If the government says that you don't have a choice, you have to pay for it. We truly won't have a choice, and we have to pay for it. But is there no better way we can do this? Can't we leverage on bringing in foreign direct investments? Can't we leverage on bringing in Nigerians in diaspora to come help us out? Can't we cry for help when we truly know that we need help? Because we're in the states whereby we need help and we don't want to cry. Instead, we are forcing ourselves to do what we know that we won't be able to do eventually, which is going to bring about a collapse and going to bring about anarchy if care is not taken. Because on the long run, when the people find out that these taxes are too much, the hardship is too much, the lack is too much, it's likely going to end up in anarchy. So the government should design a method of ensuring that the people are not so overburdened, because the telecom sector, for example, they were overburdened. So they pushed that 7.5% or 7.5. They pushed it to the masses. We have over 40 taxes we're paying as a sector, so we can't bear this. So what should we do? Let's push it down. So we're just going to be channels. And now most sectors are going to be doing that, going to be aligning in that direction. When they find out that they can't bear the cost of the tax, they push it to the people. Now the air flight, what's it called? The airline stoppage and all that. I think they say that Delta Airline too would be stopping in October. 1st of October, Delta Airline will be stopping. And not that if you want to pay for Delta Airline, it now means that you have to pay with hard currency. It's not going to be the naira again. So eventually, who's taking the cost? The people, yes. Because then now we need to go and source for dollar, the foreign currency in black market, which is higher, and now use it to pay foreign companies. So now you find out that the people are now the end result. They are the ones that are so hit by these policies.
All right. If you're still with us, we're talking about the confusion that erupted as a result of the federal government suspension of the proposed 5% excise duty on telecom services, which was announced on Monday by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami. And of course, yesterday, the Budget Office, through the Director General, Ben Akabweze, debunked that pronouncement, stressing that, of course, that kind of policy statement has not been communicated to them, and therefore the implementation of that excise duty of 5% on telecom services stands. According to him, that is one of the ways through which the federal government is driving funds to actually fund the Nigerian budget of 2023. As a result of that, the medium-term expenditure framework has already been captured into that budget with the 5% increase in taxes for telecom services. What it then means is that the government, as a result of that, had formed a committee headed by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, to review that policy. So we wait for the government policy, government officials to be able to reconcile their differences and then come up with something more suitable for Nigerians as we go on with this industry. It's on that note that we come to the end of today's edition of Money Radio and Leadership Podcast. I've been in the studio with my guest, Haniel Jafar. It's always a pleasure having you. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for having me. And we say this is the point where we call it a day, and we advise you to stay blessed, stay out of trouble, and goodbye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6 6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.